right. I love it. I love the energy in the room when we connect every week like that. It's so awesome. Everyone doing good? We're doing good. The weather's like getting a little warmer, right? I got out of the car this morning walking in, and I was like, you know it's been cold when the wind chill 25 and I feel like it's getting nicer outside. But I'm looking forward to a little warmer weather this week. I think we're supposed to get some nicer weather. Anyone else looking forward to that? 47, all right, I'll take that. Yes, well, thank you guys for being here. If it's your first time, I just want to say you've made our day for being here. So glad you're here. It's really special to have you here with us, and I hope you feel loved. I hope you feel welcomed. I hope you feel comfortable in this space because we really are so glad that you are here with us. We've just had a couple services so far to start the year, and man, it's been amazing. It's been a great start to the year. A couple weeks ago, Dustin and I, we spoke on really just what was on our hearts. And if you're here, you're familiar. If not, I recommend going back and checking it out. But really, we just shared from our hearts that, like, going into this new year, we really feel like God is wanting to just awaken us in a new, fresh way. You know, just awaken us, our spirits, and to who we are and what we're meant to do, like really what's most important in this life. And Dustin shared, you know, he just had this, like, the Lord dropped in his spirit, like, awaken from your slumber, awaken from your slumber. Anyone get distracted with, like, social media and Netflix and all that, right? Like, we can get so distracted, right? So easily distracted with just things and stuff. But that we would awaken to what, like, really matters. It was really neat. It was kind of just like we were hoping that it'd be this, like, encouragement, you know, just like step into this. Let's go. We're starting a new, fresh year. And it was really cool. We heard of a freshman in high school that left the service feeling convicted and led to start a Bible study with just some of his friends in school. That's his place, that's his people, his friends at school he spends a lot of time with. And so he said, you know what, like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, Lord, what am I supposed to step into? And he took it seriously and walked out of this place and sent a text to 7 or 8 friends of his to have a Bible study on a Friday night at his house. And all 7 or 8 friends, I forget how many exactly it was, said yes. And that Friday night, they had Bible study in the living room of their house. It's so amazing. You know, it's just like, he's like, you know what? Let me step in and actually, like, do this thing. And he was so, like, ecstatic that all of his friends were so open to it and showed up and dug in. And his mom and dad told me, like, they weren't just, like, hanging out. They were, like, really in it. Like, it was so cool. Mom may have shed some tears from what I understand that night. But last weekend, Layla and Christy came up and did such a beautiful job of talking about who we are and our purpose and that we are to be disciples that follow Jesus, that love Jesus, that want to be more like him and step into that and who we are and what we do, and that we are to equip people to do the very same thing. And it was such an amazing job that they did. And I don't know about you guys, but it really just, like, it got me going as, like, all right, like, let's go, let's do this. And it was such an incredible job. And once again, we had another high schooler that walked out of this place and said, you know what? I need to start doing what we keep talking about doing. And so in his space, with his sphere, he says, you know what? I'm going to start a Bible study. And he reached out to two of his buddies. He said, hey, what do you guys think about starting a Bible study? And they're like, yes, let's do it. Each one of them asked about 8 of their friends to come to a Bible study. And so now on Sunday evening, there's about 30 high schoolers that are coming together. I share that because it was so encouraging to me. It was so inspirational to me. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes, guilty as charged, I can listen to a great sermon and I can walk out these doors and then I can just not do much with it, right? Like, guilty. And to hear these young men so boldly and courageously, they felt that tugging on their heart sitting here, and they said, you know what? I'm going to act on it. I'm just going to do it. And so I wanted to share that with you because as much as it encouraged and inspired me, I hope it does the same for you. And so we've kind of been going through this theme of like who we are and what we're meant to do, and let's go and awaken from the slumber. But it's funny how coming out of those types of talks, how quickly we can get in our heads and how quickly we can come up with a lot of good reasons, AKA excuses, on why we can't. I don't know about you, but there's been too many times, far more than I'd like to admit, that I have felt like I was supposed to do something, and I came up with a brilliant reason why I couldn't. You know? And so with all these beautiful things that are happening, I thought it'd be wise to talk a little bit about those things that we tell ourselves, or that maybe people tell us, that cause us to hesitate, that cause us to hold back from stepping into the things that really down deep we know we were supposed to do. Anyone relate with any of this already? You know? And I hope that through talking through this morning, that we can realize, you know what? I know it. I just need to do it. Just like these young men that are doing so beautifully and modeling for us. So I thought we could look through the life of Moses. When God starts to call Moses and starts asking him to step in. He starts dealing with his heart and stirring him to step in and do something. And so we're going to go to the book of Exodus. And I'm going to mute that. So Moses, just quickly, backstory, Moses is a Hebrew boy, an Israelite that is born. And at this time that he's born, Pharaoh is upset that these Israelites, their slaves, are they're growing and multiplying so quickly. And so he puts this mandate in order. This is like so hard to believe, all right? But the mandate is that any baby boy that is born, an Israelite boy that is born, is to be killed, to be thrown into the river. Wow, all right. You know, that's like, geez. But that's what the reality of the situation was when Moses was born. God had his hand on Moses from the beginning, before Moses had any idea. God already was watching over him. And so he makes a way that for Moses to be found in this river, in the basket that his mom put him in, by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter, king's daughter. Pretty sweet connection there, huh? Like, all right. Not just any old person, Pharaoh's daughter finds him. It's actually kind of cool because God set it up to where his mother, Moses' mother, was able to still nurture him at those very early age. But Moses was raised up in an Egyptian home. He's an Israelite that is raised up in an Egyptian home. The Egyptians are oppressing the Israelites. He's raised up in Pharaoh's daughter's home as he looks out the window at his blood family being enslaved, beaten, killed to produce bricks, mortar to build Egypt, their city. I don't know about you, but that's got to have some deep, conflicting feelings that he's got to deal with. You know, like how sometimes we had those identity things deep inside of us. A lot of times we're even unaware of it unless we do the hard work to really dig up underneath there to figure out what's going on. But I would have to guess that Moses struggled with some identity issues. He struggled with maybe value because, again, this whole situation that happened to him as a child, it happened before he knew anything that was going on. So he's being raised by a woman that he knows is not his mother. What happened to my mother? You know? So anyway, we fast forward. Moses grows up. He's out and about, and he sees an Egyptian man beating this Israelite man because I guess he thinks that he's not producing enough. And he's beating this man, and something inside of Moses, it does not sit well, right? Like he's fired up, and he decides not to just keep walking by and about his business and not putting himself in danger. You know, he decides to step in and do something about it. However, that deep burning inside of him of that identity stuff caused him to maybe see red a little bit too much. And he ended up killing this Egyptian man. And it was like to the point where he's like, whoa, I can't even believe I did that. And he buries the man in hopes to hide it that he did it. See, sometimes when God calls us to do something, I think we can't do it because of a past mistake that we've made. And so the first point I want to make is that your past mistakes do not change God's love for you or his desire to partner with you. So can we debunk that I can't do what God wants me to do because of what I've done? He wants to still partner with you. The next day, Moses goes out. He sees a couple Israelite men that are fighting between themselves. And so he decides to step in again to try to settle down, guys, settle down. You know, like it's going to be all right. And one of the men spouts back off to him and says, who are you to judge us? Are you going to do what you did to that Egyptian yesterday? He says, who are you to judge? And we see that fear enters the picture now. Fear of being seen. Fear that Pharaoh has caught word because now the word is spreading and he's freaking out, and he goes and he runs off into the wilderness. Runs from the problem, runs away. So he is no longer at home. He's no longer with his people. He's no longer in what was comfortable to him. He's in a place away that he is unfamiliar with. He's isolated. But yet he finds himself in a place where he sees these women coming to a well to get water, to water their flock. And even though he's in an unfamiliar space, doesn't really know anyone around, he decides to step in and help because these women start to get driven off by these shepherd men. And these shepherd men come in and just try to kind of overpower them to say, hey, let us get through here. You get out the way. And Moses says, no, that's not right. That's not right. He steps in and he says, you know what? Let me help you. Let's draw this water together. Let's get your flock watered. And he stepped in, even though he was in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, he saw something that wasn't right, and he chose to step in and do something about it. So sometimes, even when you're in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, God still wants to use you. Second point is, it doesn't matter where you are, God will use you. It doesn't matter where you are, God will use you. But we must stay attentive and present in the moment to what he wants us to do. He could have easily been out in the wilderness and been oblivious to what just happened with these women. But he saw it, he was attentive to it, and courageous enough to step in to it. Lend a helping hand, right or wrong. As we move forward, he's still in the wilderness, and God comes to him in a burning bush, but this bush isn't getting consumed. And so you might see a burning bush and, okay, it caught fire or whatever, but this thing isn't getting consumed. And I don't know about you, but that would kind of catch my attention too. Like, what is going on? And so God decides to reach out to Moses through a burning bush. Now, if you've read this Bible, for a long period of time, you might read right through that. But I mean, come on, like a burning bush, God is talking to him through a burning bush. God will get your attention one way or another. He's going to get your attention. God decides at this point in time to give Moses a big assignment. And many of you may already know, but he gives him a big assignment to save these Israelites that are enslaved, that are in bondage, that are being beaten in Egypt. Let's go to Exodus 3, starting verse 9. God's telling Moses, "Now behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me furthermore. I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. Therefore, come now, I will send you to Pharaoh, so that you may bring my people, the sons of Israel, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I?" Does that sound familiar? When I was reading this, I don't know that I've ever connected that before, but when I was reading this and he said, "Who am I?" It called me back to what those Israelite men, when they were fighting amongst themselves, and said, "Who are you to judge me?" And how sometimes what people say can then cause us to doubt who we are. Have you ever found that to be true? The things that people say alter our perspective of who we are. He says, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt?" Who am I? I'm not enough to do all of that. That's huge. That's crazy. That's a big assignment. I'm not enough for that. Third point. You are a child of God. And with him, you are enough. The lies that we tell ourselves that we are not enough, we can't do, it's over. See, with God, we are enough. If he called us to it, we are enough. We go to verse 12. And he said, God's responding to Moses here. He says, "Certainly I will be with you. I will be with you. Whatever you're about to go through, I will be with you. I will always be with you." And he says, "This shall be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God at this mountain. Now, I was reading this and I thought, you know what? If I were Moses, I would really love that sign to be before I do all this stuff. You know? Like, so after I've done everything, then I'll see this. Okay. Can we do a little swap there? And can you show me the sign before I put my neck out there and do all these things that you're asking me to do? But see, the next point is that many times you do not get the proof until after you have taken the steps. Many times you don't get the proof until after you've taken the steps of faith. That's the part where, like, that's why it requires faith. It requires faith because we don't see the sign many times until after. Moses then asked, well, what am I supposed to say to the Israelites? Who should I tell them sent me? Another excuse. But I mean, like, what am I supposed to say? Like, who sent me? Like, what am I supposed to, freak out, panic mode, you know? What am I supposed, anything, any excuse I can come up with real quick. What am I supposed to say? So God graciously gives them instructions on what to say, walks them through it. I am who I am. Whatever you need, I am. Whatever you need, I am. It doesn't matter. I am. Moses goes on to say, after God gives him all the instruction, Moses responds, well, what if they don't believe me? Or what if they don't listen to me? Have you ever done this with God? God, what if it doesn't work? How stupid am I going to look? What if what I do and you told me to do doesn't work? I don't want to look dumb. Next point. If God said it, it will work. Now, we're going to get into it a little bit more because sometimes we still have to be patient along the way. But if God said it, it will work. God goes on to show Moses 3 different signs, miracles that he can do in front of these people if they don't listen, if they don't believe. And there's a whole nother sermon or 2 we could go into there, but I just encourage you to read it. It's cool. But after witnessing these incredible signs, he throws a staff, turns into a snake. He picks it back up and turns back into a staff. He puts his hand in his robe, comes out with leprosy, puts it back, and he's fully restored. He puts water onto the ground, it turns into blood. These miracles that just happened right in front of his face, Moses experienced it for himself. After experiencing that, in chapter 4, verse 10, he says, but I'm not a good speaker. Okay, I get that I can do that thing, but my next excuse is I'm not a good speaker. I'm not skilled enough. I'm not talented enough. Anyone tell themselves that before? How many times I've heard people try to tell me they ain't got any talents. I'm like, baloney. You are kidding yourself. You are kidding yourself. God responds, who made man's mouth? All right, checkmate. I'll teach you what to say. Calm down, guy. I'll teach you what to say. Moses responds, please, Lord, send somebody else. I mean, I'm running out of excuses here. Could you just send someone else? And at this point, God kind of is like, all right, we've had enough. We got to move on here. He said, I'll use your brother Aaron to help. He's a fluent speaker. He can step in. He can help you with that, with what you see as a downfall. He can help with that. And what's so cool is Moses didn't even have to go and talk to Aaron to convince Aaron to help him. God already did the work and already had it in motion. Aaron came and met Moses, and just God worked it all out. Next point. If God called you to do it, he will develop you and or provide someone to help you accomplish it. You will be developed. You will grow into what it is that he needs you to do. And if he's ever done that with you, I'm sure he has. Sometimes it's happened in some tough times. You had to work through some things, but when you look back, you realize, oh, that was a growing season. He was teaching me some things. You know how he teaches you to be patient? You just wait forever. And you're like, oh my Lord, why did I ever pray for this? He will develop you to do what he's called you to do. Now listen, at this point, Moses and Aaron, they go and they start having these conversations. They talk to the Israelite elders. They talk to Pharaoh. And God already warned them that, hey, listen, it's not going to happen right away. Like Moses, he's not going to be an easy one to work with. But yet, when they went and talked to Pharaoh, Pharaoh gets upset, and he starts oppressing the Israelites, his family, his blood, the Israelites. Pharaoh starts putting harder situations on them. They stop providing straw to make the bricks, but yet they require them to keep up with the same quota. You know, we're not going to give you the straw you need, but you still need to produce the same amount. And so puts them in an unfair situation. The taskmasters are driving them and beating them, and it's getting more and more violent to where the Israelites come running back to Moses and Aaron and say, what did you do? What is going on? And I don't know about you, but that's a tough spot to be in. When you put yourself out there and you end up hurting the people that you love. But when we look at chapter 5:22, it says, then Moses returned to the Lord. He just returned to the Lord. He talked to him. What's going on? Why is it working out this way? But he returned to the Lord. And if you know the story as it continues on, it becomes plague after plague after plague. Pharaoh doesn't change. He doesn't let the people go. And what does Moses continue to do? He keeps going back to the Lord. He keeps communicating with the Lord. He keeps going back to the Lord. I want to encourage you that no matter what, when things don't go the way you think they should or you thought they were going to, just continue to return to the Lord. When things take a turn for the worse, don't give up. Just come back to him. Keep communicating with him. Stay present with him. You guys can stand. The worship team can make their way up.